My prayer in particular is titled When a Parent Returns to God. And it's based upon me dealing with the transition of my mother. It was very painful. I knew that the only thing I could do was lean and depend on him. And from there, I had to draw from scriptures. I had to draw from what had been poured into me concerning the word of God and concerning his promises. But prayer and understanding who I am in him, and understanding that we are spirits and we possess a soul, which is our thinker, our mind, and we live in physical bodies. And according to the word of God, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So that gave me the confidence and the comfort that I needed in knowing that I will see her again. I will.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of What's the 411 for Authors, the show that actually helps authors learn from the best to be their very best. I'm so excited that you guys have decided to tune in to the show today because, of course, I have Regina Patterson here on the show. Today, we're going to be talking about the power of attraction, how presence leads to prominence. This is going to be such a great show. And Regina, I know you're ready, girl. I know you're ready.
I'm ready.
I know you are, girl. This is your thing. But you all, one of the great benefits of this show is that you can actually ask Regina questions. Now, we have taken this show to a different level because not only can you type in your questions, you can now call in your questions. The telephone number is listed in the description box as well as the member ID. Just remember, when you do call that number, you do not have to press anything for the participant ID. I just said you don't have to press nothing, but you got to press pound. But, just make sure that you put in that member ID and press pound when they ask for your participant ID number. You will not be seen here on the show. So that's something great. You could just have your hair all crazy and you could still ask your question in the comfort of your robe. So now what we would love for you to do is go ahead and share this video now so that more people will learn about Regina and her marketing expertise. And another thing for the different authors, so they will know how these different tips can actually help them to be better marketers themselves, as well as how they could possibly utilize Regina's services. Another thing we would love for you to do is go ahead and like and follow our different social media handles as well. This is all about marketing, growing our following and things like that. We want to grow too. We don't want to only help you to grow, but we want to grow in our numbers as well. So make sure you like and follow those things. And just let us know that you're in the virtual world. Just say hello to us. We won't bite you at all. But Regina, if you can go ahead and let the viewers just know a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I am Regina Patterson, and I am the founder, owner, and principal of our RP Marketing. It is a full service marketing agency, which means that we do everything from graphic design for print and digital to web development to developing marketing strategies, writing, branding. We do it all. And we love to work with small and mid-sized businesses and nonprofits. And when it comes to small and mid-sized businesses, that also means solopreneurs. I do have a group on here that's also called Melanin in Marketing. And when I say on here, on Facebook, and that's a place where I just go, and I give free tips and advice in regards to marketing. I have, over 15 years of experience doing this in the real world for larger brands. And it's my goal to help, smaller businesses and nonprofits receive that large level brand experience at either a lower rate or sometimes even, just at a free level while you're able to DIY it yourself.
Mm-hmm. So specifically with our topic, again, we're talking about the power of attraction, how presence leads to prominence. Why do you think presence actually leads to prominence?
Yeah, so I thought about this question a little bit. And I was going through, just numbers. And I went to the census website, census.gov, and I looked it up just to kind of give us an understanding of what our circle of influence really looks like, right? Mm-hmm. And so in the world, there's about 7.8 billion people, right? Mm. And in the US, there's about 329 million people. In reality, we probably know, maybe, I'm going to give us a grand number and say we know 5,000 people, right?
Okay.
And even at 5,000 people, that's still 0.000006 amount of the people in the world. And then out of the US, it's a little bit larger, but not, there's still a ton of people that we don't know. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to presence, we have to, are you laughing at my nerd side?
Yes.
But when it comes to presence, we have to think about our circle of influence, and we have to expand that circle of influence, because in real life, there are about, once again, 5 different groups of people that we have, that we communicate with. We have our close family, our extended family, friends, our close colleagues, and then we just have acquaintances, right? And then we already talked about people that you don't know. But when it comes to presence, there's a marketing, when we talk about marketing conversion and different things like that, people have to know you first, right? Okay. So the very first thing that they have to do is to even know that you exist. Once again, if you have 5,000, let's be more realistic, you probably know about 2,000 people or whatever. If with that being said, there's a ton of people who actually don't know you, and one of the ways that you get to know more people is by showing up and being present. You can't get to know more people by never exposing your face, your name, so on and so forth. And then the next step beyond that is believability. Do people believe what you're saying? Do they like what you're saying? Or do they believe what you're saying? Are you a credible source of whatever? So being credible doesn't necessarily always mean being an expert at something. It means, does who you say you are line up with what they see, right? And so if we think about it, it takes a while to transition people's brains. Our close families know us from when we were little, boo-boo and poo-poo, right? And so them seeing you sometimes in a new light is different. So we have to transition them to seeing, who we are. Same thing with extended friends, extended family. Some people haven't seen you since high school, so they still see you as the high school, version of yourself. And then your acquaintances and people, colleagues and stuff, they just really don't know you a lot. And so that helps to create some believability within you. And then as you continue to go on, it depends on whether or not people like you. And in reality is that some people won't like you, some people will like you, but you want to take them down that funnel.
Okay, so we got believability and
so know, believe, like.
Believe, like. Okay, so when we're talking about these 5 spheres, that's such a hard word, spheres of influence that we have, is it kind of surface level though? Because are we counting people that are our friends on Facebook? Because I know a lot of these authors, but I don't truly know these authors that's my friends. Are they a part of this sphere or no?
So I would put them more in the acquaintance side of things. So people that you know of, that know of you, but they don't necessarily know you well.
Okay. And so it is still, we can still say that we can have an influence on an individual we have never physically met before, but we are friends with them online, and we can still move them down this funnel of know, believe, and like.
Yeah.
That's encouraging.
If you think about it, think about a lot of people. So the presence Power of Presence or Power of Attraction, how presence leads to prominence or whatever. If you think about it, a lot of celebrities, right?
Okay.
We don't know them at all. We've never met them a day in our lives, right? But they kept showing up. We keep seeing their faces, whether it's in a movie or interviews. If you realize it, like if somebody has a movie coming out, you'll start seeing they're doing a lot more like interviews, right? Like on Jimmy Fallon and different things like that, because they're showing their face in order to promote their movie. You know, they're getting back into like what's the word called? Into a world of relevance. I even heard like for celebrities, and I believe it that they do stuff like literally to attract paparazzi sometimes so they can stay relevant. You know what I mean? And so just because they want to, you know, stay top of mind, stay in people's minds. So yeah.
My prayer in particular is titled When a Parent Returns to God. And it's based upon me dealing with the transition of my mother. It was very painful. I knew that the only thing I could do was lean and depend on him. And from there, I had to draw from scriptures. I had to draw from what had been poured into me concerning the word of God and concerning his promises. But prayer and understanding who I am in him and understanding that we are spirits and we possess a soul, which is our thinker, our mind, and we live in physical bodies. And according to the word of God, to be absent from the body, to be present with the Lord. So that gave me the confidence and the comfort that I needed in knowing that I will see her again. I will.
And that is such a great example because I didn't even think about them. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not even friends with these cats on Facebook, and we still feel like we know them.
Right.
That's so, girl. Okay, so just from that question alone, you can kind of tell Regina knows her stuff. Okay, but I don't know. You know, I think just the fact that you're able to help us to realistically see how, you know, just that example that you gave, it just really just helps us to understand so much more how you can virtually touch somebody. You don't even know them. You know. So I was actually talking to this author the other day, and he made the statement, I just don't think I had that much to offer. This is my first publication. Can you talk to our viewers on how to create a voice that people actually want to tune into?
Yeah. So when I first thought about this statement, the first thing that came to mind is I don't have a lot to offer. This is my first publication. I thought you're right. You don't have a lot to offer. And the reason why I say that is because that's the way you feel, right? So if you told yourself this, and if you believe this, then you're right. You don't have a lot to offer. Now, if you go back and think about like who you are, what's your experience? Why did you write the book? How do you relate to certain characters in it? Or if it's if it's a nonfiction, a self-help, like why did you actually write that? Did you go through an abusive situation? Or are you helping kids learn? Are you a teacher? Did you have like 30 years of seeing certain things happen? The reason why you're doing it. I think that everybody has something to offer, is whether or not you believe in your story enough to feel like you have something to offer. Like I know Martinique, you and I like are both like Christians or whatever. And I know a lot of times people get intimidated because they don't have that, like, and I don't have this story either. Like we don't have that, like, I was in the hard life, blah, blah. I went down Damascus Road and God,
Yeah.
So it's like, do you have a testimony? But at the end of the day, your story will relate with somebody. Like my story will relate with other people who may feel like church hurt, or my story might relate with other people who was a church child who grew up, and accepted Christ at an early age. So it just all depends on what your story is and you harnessing it with confidence.
But should we with saying that, should we even try to reach those individuals who may not can relate to our story, or should we first just try to get these people who relates to our story?
Well, I think that at the end of the day, it depends. And this is the reason why it's important to have a target market or target audience, because it's about who do you actually want to read your book, right? Mm-hmm. And so once you know who you want to read your book, then you'll know more of what story to tell them. So you go a little bit backwards if you develop a story before you know your audience. You have to know your audience before you develop the story.
Which one you want us to do first? Know
your audience first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So know our audience first and then develop our story.
Yeah, and I will say that can be a little bit trial and error, right? So you may go out there and think that you know audience or whatever, but that may not actually be your audience, or you may just like go out and start throwing out comments and content or whatever and start to see what resonates with your audience and also what feels good within yourself, you know, because part of marketing is still intuition. Like there's a big part of science and data that goes with it, but part of it is also intuition. I feel like especially for authors, or at least people like me, authenticity is a big deal. And so the more authentic you are, the easier it will be for you to actually create content, because you can literally just find content everywhere. You can be sweeping your floor and, you know, you have a message about hard work, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So can you talk to us about the importance of growing a following even when you aren't selling a book yet? And the reason why I want to ask Regina this question is because I know Regina doesn't like this, but I am that type of person that if you send me a friend request, or if I send you a friend request and you accept it and I see you're an author, I am shooting you that message of, do you want to be on my show for blase blah price? And Regina says that's a no-no. But I have so many authors that says to me, oh, well, my book isn't going to be published until June. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm thinking, but you need to start building this anticipation of your book now, you know, so that you're not in that boat of when May hits, you're trying to gather all these people up during your pre-launch. So talk to us about that. Why is that even important?
Yeah, so the reality is, and I was walking Martinique through a book launch before, right? And there was a book that came out in January, and I was telling her that like literally last September, we were looking at like the plan and literally even getting on the author about like starting to promote the book, right? Your book isn't out, but we know it's coming out in January. And in September, I want you to actually promote this book. And the reality is that this is a celebrity. So she already has a big following, right? Mm-hmm. They already like have, you know, people who are following them, watching their every move, so on and so forth. So if you think about a celebrity who already has a following and they're promoting their stuff super early, what does that mean for you? And one of the things when it comes to growing a following, the reality is that a lot of people become I guess the best word is annoyed, right? They become annoyed because like if the message is buy now, buy now, buy now, but you never developed a real relationship with those people, you know, why would they buy just because you said buy now, especially if they don't see a connection between your content and who they are as a person, right? And so developing your audience over that time frame, over a year, maybe 2 years, you know, is literally you're building an audience now. You're building that credibility behind yourself. You're creating a personality for yourself. And now people have actually connected with you. And then they'll connect with your content and with your book because it's all consistent, right? Mm-hmm. People have to know what to expect. Even like when I launched my business, you know, there were certain things that I did to transition myself, and I continue to transition myself over time with the type of content that I post. How do I use my Instagram page? Just all of that stuff. And I think that we have to remember that at the end of the day, people buy from people, mm-hmm. right? And so some people are like, well, I don't want to be seen as a brand. I'm sorry, you are. Like we're in the day and age now where everything is so public and faces are so public that you are actually a brand now.
And I think that if you do have a problem with becoming a brand, well, maybe I shouldn't say that, because I'm learning a lot of authors write their book just because maybe God told them to write it. So I don't want to make it sound like, if you don't want to become a brand, then you don't need to write your book. I'm the wrong. No.
I mean, like literally though, honestly, that thought before we got on the phone. So like, as I was getting ready for the call, that was one of the things that I thought about though. Like, why write a book if you aren't going to go and actually sell the book, right? You can write a blog. I mean, you can fill up a blog then, right? And just have people go read it. So like, what's the point in, especially after you go through the point of self-publishing, what was the entire point of self-publishing if you're not actually going to amplify that message?
And that, I'm so glad that you just said that, because I'm thinking about, and I don't want to discredit anybody, but it costs money,
Exactly.
to like self-publish and, the printing and all that stuff. And it will save a person so much more money to just write it on maybe a Microsoft Word document and then just make it into a PDF and then give it to people.
Right.
If that's what all you about is like just sharing your message and not wanting to become a brand, then you can simply just give it away for free, But I think we have to be very realistic in why we're doing certain things. And one of the benefits of writing a great book is receiving money for all that hard work that you have put into it.
Right.
As well. So I see that we have a couple of people that's watching. Please make sure that you go ahead and share this video now. You're watching What's the 411 for Authors, the show that actually helps authors to learn from the best to be their very best. We are talking to Regina Patterson here. She is our marketing guru, and she is teaching us how the power of attraction, how presence leads to prominence. I like really screwed that up, but our topic today is the power of attraction, how presence leads to prominence. You are able to call in now. The telephone number is listed in the description box, and you don't need a participant ID. But if you have any questions for Regina, make sure you go ahead and call in, and we'll get that on as well. Or you can simply just post your question below as well. So how do you help somebody with, they do Facebook Lives and they consistently only have 1 or 2 people that watch? How do you feel about that? Like, why should they even stay motivated to keep doing it?
Yeah, that, you know what, that one is a hard question, right? I would say that if you have like only 1 or 2 people that watch, there's two things, two pieces of this. If you're live and you only have 1 or 2 people who are watching when you're live, okay, whatever, fine, right? Because those videos are replayed and you can share them and you can get them replayed at different times, right? The second thing is understanding why your video is only watched by 1 or 2 people. So I can go on at a certain point in time and maybe have like 60 something views of a video, like while it's playing, like during that duration. But by the end, it has over 200 views, right? Because of replays and all that kind of stuff. So the first thing is understanding that that those videos aren't just static, and once you do it, they're over. No, that's content now that's out there. The second thing is understanding, and I guess I'm going to make this 3 now, is understanding how you can use the videos for yourself in the future, right? So if you think about videos, they also become virtual resumes, right? And so say that you're trying to pitch for an event or, anything like that. You can use a video. Like how better is it to use a video than a written word sometimes to pitch like where you're coming from, so on and so forth. Yes, people do love reading, and you're an author, you should be, working toward readers or whatever. But at the same time, like I said, you're pitching yourself now. Now you have ready-made content. You don't have to go and record something new when it's time to pitch. Like, hey, here's my video. Go ahead and watch it, right? And the third thing is figuring out why your video wasn't watched. And so this is a part that I know that certain people like to do things from personal pages versus, group and different things, group and business pages. And I totally understand. I totally understand the reasoning and the logic behind that, because you will possibly get a bigger viewership if you do it from from your own personal page, especially if you have more followers on your personal page. Yeah. However, I would say there are certain things that we miss out on with our personal page. So we miss out on the data. Within group pages, you can see the data. You can see when your audience is actually online, right? Same thing with business pages. And so then maybe you're actually publishing your video or going live at a time your audience isn't actually online. And so having that data will help you understand whether or not you need to take your video to a different time, or at least replay it, repost it, right? The other thing is really becoming comfortable in front of the camera. So you have to know, like, really honestly, just really bluntly, like I always say, really bluntly, whether or not you're boring, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're boring, you have to figure out some different things to do to make you less boring. There are, things when it comes to public speaking and presentation, but video takes it to a new level, right? And so then that becomes the question of, do you have specific hacks? Like me, I can watch myself through my computer monitor while I'm talking. So then I feel like I'm actually talking to somebody. Right? And so then I'm not just in presentation mode and still and different things like that, right? And so you have to start to figure out, like, what are your hacks? What things do you do to get people attention? Like, there was a reason why I did the numbers at the beginning. The numbers is a shocking number, and it grabs somebody's attention in the very beginning. So if I shock you and bring you in, now I have your attention to actually get you to listen to me, right? That also with that believability, like, there is one thing to, like, know your own information, but when you become so deep in whether it's your genre or like your industry or whatever it is, people believe you more because you know more. Like, there are all kinds of people who are out there as experts and, all this kind of stuff, but like, not everybody has that experience that you have. So you have to figure out what lever to pull. And like I said, just being comfortable in front of the camera. So many people think that we have to be super professional, right? Well, not all the time. I'm a silly person. I like to crack jokes. So I'm gonna crack jokes. It is what it is. And hopefully that, keeps people attention instead of like giving you a full presentation on LinkedIn that nobody really wants to listen to if I'm just talking about LinkedIn from some slides.
And I'm really thankful that you mentioned on the previous question, that it may take a while, because you mentioned 1 or 2 years. That is so shocking, to me, that it could possibly take that long, because, man, are we talking years to build something?
I have this book right here, and we were just, we were talking on the other day about like what I was reading. I was like, I'm not reading anything. And then suddenly I've had this book for some months now. It's called Content Mavericks, right? And one of the things that it talks about in here is literally what you said, Martinique. It was pretty much like what you hear from marketers, people like me, is that marketing is a long game, right? It's the long game. It's not like a short run. However, on the other side is that there are some shortcuts and short things that you can do, right? And so you have to know how to balance both of those. But you do have to totally be in there for the long run. And that's the whole point of building, the brand situation. Because when you don't build a great brand, you become a one-hit wonder, right? They buy from you today and then they forget about you tomorrow. But when you build a brand over time, that's why J.K. Rowling can come out with 900 Harry Potter books, right? Fast and Furious can come up with Fast and Furious 10, and Marvel can come out with before they were born, you know? And it's because of the brand that they have, and now they have like this cult following. And so that's every marketer's dream, right? Can we get this cult following for whatever we have?
That's good.
My prayer in particular is titled When a Parent Returns to God. And it's based upon me dealing with the transition of my mother. It was very painful. I knew that the only thing I could do was lean and depend on him. And from there, I had to draw from scriptures. I had to draw from what had been poured into me concerning the word of God and concerning his promises. But prayer and understanding who I am in him, and understanding that we are spirits and we possess a soul, which is our thinker, our mind, and we live in physical bodies. And according to the word of God, to be absent from the body, to be present with the Lord. So that gave me the confidence and the comfort that I needed in knowing that I will see her again. I will.
And we actually have Sharvie Kennedy. She said, great advice, Regina. She says, writing a book is a business. You are right, ladies. So I think that this is like maybe one of the hardest things, not only for authors, but people in general, with any business that they have. How do you recommend an author finds their target audience?
Yeah, I think that this one is once again, this is a research question, right?
Okay.
And so you have to have your eyes open for the right things. So with that being said, who, first of all, do you have an idea? So for me, I'll just go through my journey for myself personally. For me, I knew that I had a passion for marketing, right? And marketing could have hit anybody at any time. You know, when I first went out, I knew I wanted to, do marketing for people of color. And this is like way back in the day. Like,
what do you mean when you say when you went out? What's that?
Like when I first was like developing who I wanted to offer marketing skills to, marketing services to, it was to people of color. But my wanting to offer marketing to them at that time was more me based, right? It was, I know that there are businesses out there, and this is who I want to work with, right? Versus I still have the same target market, but what happened over time is that I started to realize people's actions, right? So I started to see that more and more businesses, because like I said, I put the business on the shelf because I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. But once I started to see that we're in this information age now, and a lot of people are out there, looking to achieve this American dream, I can do whatever I put my mind to, so on and so forth. Then I started seeing like that mistakes were being made, right? Okay. And so my thought was, okay, I have this experience and I see this big need. And it's not even I just see this need. One of the most frequently asked questions is, how do I market XYZ?
Okay.
That's my passion. That's what I do. People are literally asking this question. It's like, this is going to be my target audience, right? And with that being said, then you just kind of test it, right? You start to test, like, are people actually engaging in what you're putting out? So are they picking up what you're putting down, And you start to see from there. And so when I started, I actually created my own strategy document for myself and said, okay, here are I know I have people of color, right? But then here are the different segments within that, right? So you have the solopreneur who's trying to do it by themselves, right? Then you have the established business who are, who's out there but they still don't have a marketer to actually depend on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have nonprofits who work with people of color. You also have companies that target people of color a lot, but that's not necessarily like their business, for example. And
Mm-hmm.
so I segmented those, and that's how you start to determine who you're going to talk to. And with that being said, and I'm starting to go like a little bit heady, so I'm going to try to take it up a little bit. But that's why Melanin in Marketing was formed, because I knew that I needed a sub segment that I could be raw and real with,
Mm-hmm.
while still being able to go out with RRP marketing for people who didn't necessarily want the raw and real and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can brand RRP marketing differently than I brand Melanin and Marketing, right? They work together, but they work separately.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, when it comes to a target market, you start out a little bit by just figuring out like, who is that person, you know, and then there's data. You can go to like your local library. They may have a database that you can access. Ours do here. We can start to pull like, who are these people? Like, what's their spending power? What's their buying power? You know, all this kind of stuff. And then you start to decide, okay, like, do they actually have the money, right, to buy from me? Because when it comes to being a business, you still have to determine whether or not there's real business viability there, right?
Mm-hmm.
They may be interested, but they may not be interested enough to pay, or they just may not even have enough money to pay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so you have to like put all of that stuff together to say, okay, I know they're out here, but now is this a viable business? And that's where you start to pull like the data and the numbers and so on and so forth. And then you may have to say, this wasn't what I originally imagined, so I'm going to have to pivot a little bit, right? And as I pivot, this is how I'm going to talk to this set of people or whatever. But it all goes back with looking at the data.
Mm-hmm. So with that though, I feel like it's like throwing spaghetti on the wall, seeing what sticks. What do you think?
So like one of my very first posts is called the spaghetti approach.
Okay.
And that's literally it's literally what happens when you don't know good marketing practices and you don't take the full approach, right? And so what you do is throw spaghetti on the wall and you see what sticks. Okay, I'm going to do that because that sticks, and I'm going to do that and that sticks. Instead of going back and doing like the carpenter approach, right? Measure twice, cut once, right? So yeah, are you still going to do like a little bit of trial and error? Yeah, of course. Like as you're developing your brand and so on and so forth, there's going to be trial and error that goes on. It's like people rebrand and all that kind of stuff, right? But you should have at least some type of path that you're going in, because if you don't know what direction you're going in at all, you're going to end up wherever or nowhere.
So let's act like somebody writes a they write, their genre is self-help books. So in finding our target market, what do you want us to do first? Should we be going to conferences?
So let's talk about that. I think that when it comes to self-help, like so first thing is self-help. What kind of self-help?
Okay, so this type of self-help I do is building confidence within women.
Yes. Okay, right? So
you see how excited she gets? She's such a marketer.
Because you have to start to get, kind of narrow with that, right? Yeah. And so now we're going to look at building confidence within women, right?
Okay.
So what I would do is I would start to look at Sheryl Sandberg, right? She wrote the book Lean In, right?
Okay.
I look at women who write books about breaking glass ceilings or whatever. I will look at
so authors that are doing the same genre.
Doing the same genre, right?
Okay.
And so the first thing I would do is go to their pages and look at who's actually following them. You can look at the list of people. Okay. Like look at them. Sometimes click into their pages. Who are they? Are they moms? Are they XYZ? Are they complainers? Like, who are they? What are they talking about? Are they super Christian?
I see. I was thinking you meant like the actual individual, like Martinique Brown, Regina Patterson. I thought you meant like.
No, yeah, I do.
Well, it sounds like you was categorizing like
right, because
moms
you have
or
to, like, so what you do is you take this really, really micro data, right? You look at these individual people, because especially if you're not going to do the work, right? Or if you're not going to pay the cost, right? So,
pay for somebody else to do it.
yeah. So
Okay.
reality is, if I'm on Facebook and like I want to do a Facebook ad, I'm not going to any of their pages, right? I'm going to go in, and when I put my target market, I'm going to put interest, self-help, building confidence. I'm going to target women from a certain age to a certain age, all that kind of stuff, right? And I'm going to see like how it works. I will actually even target people who like Sheryl Sandberg, who follow Sheryl Sandberg, like all that kind of stuff, right? But if you're not going to use the tools that are already built out there, then you have to do the work to actually build your data. And at a certain point, it just makes more sense to pay for the data, right? Like a lot of companies. So, for example, when we worked for the retailer, I would get business insights reports, right? And so they would tell me, for this certain whatever, this is who the customer is. This is what they like. This is what they don't like. This is what stresses them out. This is what XYZ and all that kind of stuff, because the data is already there for us. This is how much they spend. This is how much they have as household income. And I would use that to create marketing plans. Now, if I don't have them, like, so for example, now I don't have them for myself. So I have to go in and start to look for common trends, because at the end of the day, you're really looking for trends for people. So like I said, there's this group who DIY, there's this group who, they don't have the time to do the marketing, but they have the money for it, There is another group who don't have the experience, but they have the money, right? And so you just have to figure out who those segments are. So let's go back to self-help, right? I'm looking there now, and I would probably read a lot of articles about like low self-esteem, low confidence, understanding how people are creating messages for them. Because once you see that, you'll also see your market will evolve. It'll like rise to the top, right? So in Christian, like I went to the bookstore well before I started working for HarperCollins, and I realized there are a lot of books written for Christian women, right? And I was like, why are there so many books written for freaking Christian women, right? And then if you look at that, you will look at a lot of those books as if there's a sense of not being empowered also, right? Like as if the woman is weak, as if blah, blah, blah. And so that shows a certain trend within that market. And then what you want to do, so for yourself, is determine whether you want to continue that trend or you want to be different from that trend, right? Because there is a whole segment of people, say for example, who are single and not looking to get married, right? So every book about single doesn't necessarily have to be about finding your mate.
Gotcha.
Right? Every book about building confidence, maybe you're already confident, but you want to build more confidence, or maybe it never meant that you are weak or that you are abused or whatever it is. Maybe it's from a corporate standpoint versus from, personal standpoint.
So, okay. Did you answer the question when you were saying we go to that author's page and we look at the type of people that are following them? Are we doing anything else?
So yeah, you're looking at that. You're really just, it's a game of having your eyes and ears open, right? Okay. And so and I can't tell you exactly like where or what to go, but like, yeah, I would go like look at self-help books or whatever. I would even look at the people who are writing the endorsements for self-help books. I would ask questions to people like, are you struggling with self-confidence, different things like that? Like, what do you actually struggle with? I'm the one thing I will say is that I'm not an extremely clearly like low confidence person. And so it would be hard for me to say like you will find a Facebook group, but there's probably some Facebook group out there, with people with low self-confidence, right? Go to those groups and become fans of them and be like a fly on the wall, right? I am in groups with all kinds of people who are looking to or currently operating a business. So like small business groups, Black owned business groups, crafting groups, because a lot of crafters also own businesses. They're the t-shirt people and all of that. I find the groups that are relevant to my story and to my message, because at the end of the day, it still has to be relevant. And then you let them feed you with the information that you need.
Okay, so, but let's act like we went to this author's page, we saw her following, we've joined these Facebook groups and things like that. What are we doing now? Are we sending them a friend request, or like how are we even getting them into our circle now? Are we asking for an email so we can put them on our email?
You're not. And that's the reason why it's a long
game. No.
So what you're doing now is you are listening, you're watching, and you're engaging.
Right? Engaging, that just means answering questions, like putting our 2 cents in.
Hosting topics, like you're part of the community. Like you have to be a good community member. Like you're not a salesperson yet. You're just a community member. How
long should we be this community member? Because we're ready to sell.
I guess it's hard for me to tell you that answer because you already know my answer, Martinique.
Well, they don't know.
Yeah, my answer is
so funny, Regina.
Is that you're first of all, you're a community member for forever. First of all, right? But it's about when do you turn and ask for Gary Vaynerchuk has this book called Jab Jab Hook, Jab Jab Right Hook or something like that. And he talks about you throw a lot of jabs to build the credibility. And then eventually you send in a right hook to ask them for something now, right? I gave you a whole bunch of free stuff, a whole bunch of advice or whatever. Now here's my jab, right? I have this book, I have this XYZ, especially if you're trying to sell something. Now, for me, I was able to get more people to join my group because of one word, free advice, right? And I leverage that. I can leverage that from day one. Hey, I have this group. I see you have this question, XYZ, or I may answer a question. They may ask something else and say, okay, I have this group or whatever. Now, what you have to do in your brain is to know, and this is where you have to set the limit for yourself. How much information are you going to share for free? And then when do you turn it over into a conversion, right? So somebody may say, oh, can you help me with this or whatever? You know what? I actually do have this service that I offer. I'd love to talk to you more about it. But they actually came to me. Remember, I said that I don't sell a lot of my stuff. I let people come to me. And so, hey, can you help me? Oh, you're really knowledgeable about this. Can you do this or whatever? Outside of that, there are, like you said, you have to, on your own pages, this is the part about going lives and going speaking engagements and different things like that. That's the place where you can build your own credibility, right? And so you just got to go live. You got to be consistent, like be consistent. You have to get out of just one platform, right? A lot of us just think social media, we think Facebook and Instagram. People miss out on LinkedIn. They miss out on opportunities. They miss out on getting invited to be on podcasts, all that type of stuff. Those are the ways that you build your audience. And you have to, like, once again, I said, keep your eyes open for different things. Also with that, the book, the person who was looking to review your book, right? There are people who are out there who may have either a decent name or they're just really, really big book reviewers. And they're reading the books and actually spreading your information also, right? It's good to have ambassadors and advocates also. And you may have to pay them a little bit sometimes. And sometimes you just offer them the book for free in exchange for, a recommendation. A lot of people, and I'm one of these people, go to Goodreads to determine what book I'm going to get next, right? And so these people write these reviews on Goodreads, and they help determine whether or not we actually want to buy that or not. At the events, use those events as a way to capture emails.
Okay.
Right. And then once you have their email, then you can start having that consistent conversation, right? You start to, now you're in their inbox. You start to continue to stay in front of their face. The same thing with a group, right? That's one of the reasons why I actually built a group. It's another way to stay in front of a person's face, right? And so I know I was talking to Martinique before about why I don't actually do a lot of publishing of my stuff on my main page, because most of my clients and people who will be interested in my work aren't on my main page. I have a very targeted group, who is interested in my work. And then LinkedIn is my spot because that's the business and professional page. And I'm a business to business marketer.
Right.
And so with that being said, and then when it comes to that, once you have those addresses, now you're in people's inbox, but then you have to be consistent with sending the emails out, right? Do you have a story? What's next? Like you have to have a content plan after that. Are you going to go live every week at 5:00? You can use your email to say, hey, I'm going live at 5:00 on Tuesday. Come join me again. Here's what we're going to be talking about. And then you can turn that into a blog post, and you can send a recap email, and you can have them, click on the blog post and rewatch it, or YouTube page, or whatever it is, But marketing is a big stack of stuff. I'm looking around because I was actually going through some old work, and I realized that the checklist that I created, because marketing, it is a lot of stuff. You do a lot of the same stuff, use a lot of the same tactics, should I say, but you use them differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know that you actually just talked about LinkedIn, and I'm going to make this statement, but I'm first going to read this comment to you. So Sharvie Kennedy is in the virtual house. So she says, and this is going back to one of your other comments. So she said, Regina, you be saying, like, all right, Martinique, move on.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm looking at this other screen because I'm also reading the comments at the same time.
So she said, so true, Regina, data is key. Publishers give away at least 500 ARC to find the target audience for their authors. From that feedback is where they find specific numbers. What does she mean by ARC, Regina? Do you know?
Advanced reading copies.
Okay.
Yeah. That's that whole give your book away for free sometimes.
500 though, Sharvie. That is so many. That's crazy.
We're talking about a big publisher though, right? And they're selling thousands.
You better sell thousands.
I know that's right.
But I do have a question about you touching on LinkedIn, because I have not really utilized LinkedIn. Talk to the authors about how do you utilize LinkedIn?
Yeah. So I guess
to draw your target and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess this is if you can get this in your brain when it comes to social media, right? Okay. And this is specifically for social media. It's not for any other type of marketing that's out there, but specifically for social media. All of these started off as networking sites, especially, or should I say the top three or the first three: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Before somehow they morphed into the name of social media, which means splatting stuff out everywhere, they were called social networks, right? And so if you think about what you do when you network, you connect, right? And so when you're in these places, the first thing that you do is you connect, right? But you have to ask yourself, why would someone want to connect with me? And that's a hard question to ask, right? And so once again, I went and I threw out information or whatever, just to see kind of what stuck. Like, how do I still stay authentic with who I am, but I'm in this professional, network now, right? And so on LinkedIn, I do a lot of sharing what I do. Okay. I do a lot of why I'm happy that I work with the people that I work with, like my clients and different things like that. I do comment on other people's posts sometimes. Okay. I totally read articles. I like stuff. The same thing that's on Facebook is really, LinkedIn is kind of turning into like Facebook for for professionals or whatever, just consider that you're doing it with a professional now and not necessarily with your cousin.
Okay.
Right? And so can you still use humor? Absolutely. Can you still be blunt? Absolutely. But what level and what taste do you put it there? If you're an author, right? Like, talk about your book, talk about the writing process, right? Talk about how either you're struggling or you're happy. You know, like I talk about sometimes that I'm tired, you know. When I disappeared from LinkedIn, I did a post that said sorry for my silence, you know, because I talk on there a lot, right? And that is the place where I totally connect with like all old colleagues and stuff. They're totally interested in what you're doing, right? And then they know this person knows this person or whatever. And so who knows, you may end up with a librarian who wants to order 500 copies of your book because it happens to be the right school or the right, it fits the curriculum, right? Because a lot of large orders actually happen because of fitting curriculum, right?
Because it fit their curriculum.
Yeah. Okay. So like educators will buy books, you know, like all of us wrote a lot of us read The Great Gatsby, right? A lot of us read that in high school. Okay, in GRPS it was a required reading, or Shakespeare. You know, like you had required readings, Shakespeare and different things like that. But think about it, like schools had to purchase them, so on and so forth, and they become part of the curriculum.
That's good. So just tell our viewers specifically what you did at HarperCollins for us right quick.
Yeah, so what I did at HarperCollins was I was a digital marketer.
And it's a publishing company, guys.
Yep. And it's a Christian publishing company. Well, let's put it like this. We were the Christian lens, and then we actually had a non-Christian lens that we were with, also just more clean, like clean fiction and stuff. So we had Christian and then we had clean fiction or whatever. And they're two totally different brands. They're different companies, all that kind of stuff. But I marketed for both of them, right? And so I, developed digital marketing strategies. So how do we go about between web, email, and social media? How do we reach our market? Whether it's mom, grandma, young adult, whatever. How do we reach that market? And then what does that plan actually look like? Like all the way down to how is our email laid out, right? What do we actually want this person to do? How do we talk to mom? Like I changed our language while I was there. The way that we talk to moms. So instead of like just quoting Bible scriptures, yeah, they're Christians, but they're still moms and they're trying to figure out how to get their kids to bed at, such and such a time. So here's bedtime stories that can help with your kids. You know what I mean? So I started to once again go into the emotion of the parent. I did a lot of that, like looking at, okay, what are our parents concerned about? At a certain point in time, they may be concerned about bullying. At a different time, they're concerned about XYZ, but that's my mindset. And then how do I change it based on season, based on time? What books do we have to support that? And then like with that being said, so I'm talking about email, but then do we build a landing page that supports this too? Or can I create guides that can help parents? So say you have preschool age kids, right? So then I'm going to like create book guides specifically for preschool age kids. Depending on segmentation, if I had a preschool guide, I might only send to preschool moms, right? Because I don't need to send to every single person. I only need to send to people who are actually going to read it. And so that's where that hyper segmentation starts to come in. You start to think about like whether or not do you create a group, right? What does that group actually look like? What's the type of content that we build out? So you definitely don't just go and say, "Ooh, groups are popular, I'm going to create a group." No, you go and put together a strategy for what that group is going to look like, what the content is going to be. Like, do we talk about books? Do we not talk about books? Right? And like there are strategies. Like if you look at Red Bull does a lot with energetic sports or extreme sports. And they don't necessarily talk about Red Bull all the time.
Right.
But it brings the brand together. And even though I can't drink Red Bull myself, Red Bull stays at the top of my mind.
And I think that was cool that you talked about those preschool guides. Because I guess I just never thought about an author creating something to like really just go hand in hand? Because I guess when I thought about the preschool guide, I was thinking about like Cliff Notes, like a quick sheet of something that would help.
So when I talk about preschool, when I was talking about the preschool guide, I actually meant like a list of books, like that the preschooler, that would be good for the parents. So like if we were talking about bullying, right? I would like come and do like a list of books, like during back to school season. I'll just say it. Back to school season, we're going into a new school. Kids may get bullied. So I'm going to start writing a list of books about bullying. And then I might also write a blog post about bullying, but not really include like every book, or I might include the books at the very end of the blog post. But literally it might just be about like teaching your kid how to be a good kid, right? Because if I'm trying to sell it to you all the time, then why do you want, like, I'm going to try to sell you a book. So like jab, right hook.
I think that would be so cool for an author to develop their own list and then just include their book on the list.
So if you ever pay attention to people when you're looking for like the best, like say the best editing programs, right? There is no, if you look at who actually wrote the post, sometimes Canva wrote the post. So they'll give you 20 of them, but you better be sure Canva is in there in that list of 20, right?
Yeah.
And they do it because they want you to like try their stuff, and that's another way they can get your attention.
Yeah, they're so smart. They're so smart.
Yeah,
we're smart just like them, though.
You are.
So why is it important for authors to apply for and seek speaking engagements that they are not compensated for? Because I'm that type of person that's like, you're not gonna pay me nothing to come to this. But everybody ain't like me.
Let's talk about this. Real frank, real blunt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on this show because of my expertise.
Right.
I am not on this show to collect coins or anything else like this. But our last show, we had 600 or something people who saw my face.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have to try, really. All I had to do was come and share my expertise. And it's exposing me to a different audience that I never had presence in front of before. So simply having the expertise allows me to show what I know. And then it gets your face out there more, right? Because once again, your circle of influence is only about 2,000. There's only going to be like, who knows how many who actually purchases from you out of that circle. You have to build your circle. Mm-hmm. So if you want to sell those books, you need to get your buns out of your chair and you need to go speak, right? And then if possible, hopefully they'll allow you to bring books there to actually sell while you're there. So you can get compensated. Or you can create an email list. And now, you can build your email list. I don't say to do everything for free. For example, right? The free is in the amount of money that you collect, but the compensation comes in the other return. So there are what I call return on effort. People talk about return on investment or whatever. But for social media, one of the things that companies started doing a lot of, and this is the reason why there are so many freemiums out there, right? So you sign up for something and you download something for free, right? And then they get to what you exchange is your email address, right? And so now they can email you. They gave you some information, but they have your email forever.
Gotcha.
Right? And so that's the goal, because you want to get them in the purchase cycle, right? In the purchase cycle, once again, it doesn't start with, hey, this is me, now you can buy. It's, hey, this is me, follow me for a while, and then you may buy from me.
Mm-hmm. So now, can you just tell our viewers what programs you use? Because I know we talked, a lot about social media, but I personally become overwhelmed at how much posting I have to do and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Can you just throw out some of the systems that you use that helps you to post easier?
Yeah. So, let me start by saying one thing. The first thing is that practice makes perfect, right? So when you first started to learn how to walk, right, it was, you fell down a lot of times and all that kind of stuff. People had to pick you back up. It might have been a little bit hard to walk. But the more and more you walk, the less you think about the fact that you're walking now. Now it's just normal for you,
Mhm.
right? And so because I've been doing it for so long, like all this for so long, it's like walking to me, right? And so I can post, even for me though, I will say this, when I'm working in a corporate position or for clients, it can take anywhere from an hour to maybe 3 hours to create a social media post. They are not fast, nothing like that, right? When it's just me, it depends on if the artwork is already created. If the artwork is already created, that takes like, maybe 5 minutes, because I write, like I've been writing for so long. And like when we're talking about the power of attraction, right? And like just spit out a whole bunch of stuff and then figure out what I want to actually post. So the more you do that, it becomes easier. Now, some of the tools that I do use, I used to use Buffer app or whatever to schedule. So for example, I know that I have like posts coming up for my church, right? And actually, I used to do this with my church. I would go in on Monday and I would schedule all my posts for the week, right? And that way I don't have to go in and schedule. All I have to go in now or in post, all I need to do now is just monitor them, like respond to comments, all that kind of stuff.
Would you take the whole Monday to do that? It sounds like it would take a long time.
Yeah, it takes about like maybe an hour. Once again, I've been doing this like for a long time, right? And so the other part is, let me see something. Oh, shoot. I'm actually going to show you guys something really quickly if I can get, and hopefully it's okay that I share my screen, Martinique.
Oh, that's fine. I didn't know you could share it without you being the host. Show me something.
That is not what I want. Okay.
So while Regina is doing that, guys, let us know if you have any questions or comments. Please go ahead and share this video now. I appreciate you all for watching.
I am not going to share secret stuff. So I have like a client's thing that I have up here also, but I will show my own personal one.
Okay.
So let me go to Zoom now. And you would have to enable me to share my screen.
Okay, I'm gonna make you the host.
Okay.
Oh, let me make you the co-host. I want to see what that looks like. Let's see what it allows you to do. I just made you a co-host. Let's see.
So here is my screen, and I'm sharing it now, right?
Yeah.
So in real life, what I do, sorry, you're seeing comments and stuff, but what I do as a marketer is I plan out like what I'm actually going to publish and post for a good period of time. So my church's posting schedule is planned through the end of February right now. Okay. And so since that's already planned, I'll know what content I need to build. And if you look here, like I have production dates, like if it's a video, like when does it need to be recorded? When do we need to edit it? All that kind of stuff. If it's something like a blog post or something, when am I writing it? And then like, where am I actually publishing it? When you do that, it makes the actual posting piece of it a lot easier, right? Because now you know what you're going to put in. And entrepreneurial mindset, I have the video back now. It's going through some more edits. But now, I can say on this date, I'm just going to post it. And there we go, right? Same thing, like if you see like my 2 emails or whatever. Like I have different things that I'm focusing on in emails. And what we don't know is that there's a video that was for focus beforehand. So I already have the video that I can embed into the post, into the email or whatever. And I keep going. And so that's the planning is a huge part of marketing, like a huge part of marketing. It's still overwhelming regardless, but planning makes it less overwhelming. When I'm managing multiple clients, if you see this tab that I'm pointing to right here, it's called Airtable. Airtable is also a tool that I use to manage like all of the work because it gets a little bit out of control. And so now how can I see like everything at one point in time? So say, for example, for an author, like, do you have a speaking engagement, right? So from this day to this day, like you might promote, hey, I'm on here, for this speaking engagement or whatever. And That also helps to have like a cadence of what you're going to talk about. So like if I'm going to talk about like a growth, so like you see, this is a growth series, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I had whiteboards full of information about the growth tips or whatever. That helps because then you get to build on stuff versus like trying to come up with new content all the time.
Mm-hmm. So you was telling me about the what was it called? And you're able to, Facebook Studio allows you to post to Facebook and Instagram. But is there something else that we can use to post to Twitter and LinkedIn?
Yeah, so Buffer is a tool that you can use. Hootsuite,
is it free?
Yeah, Hootsuite is another tool that you can use. I don't know if Hootsuite is free anymore.
Okay.
I will also say, like I've said this before, at the cost, especially if you're working a full-time job, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the cost that these things are, just pay for them. Mm-hmm. Like if they're $15 a month, like, right, that's like 3 Starbucks coffees. Like sometimes we have to sacrifice other things and not just say everything like, oh, it's free. Because some of that data that I talk about, you also get that from those tools, like who's engaging and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you can post to like all 3 of them at the same time if you're using Buffer.
What's our 3 again for Buffer?
So no, I'm just saying, like you can post to LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. You can post to everything, not everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, from Buffer or whatever. I was a Buffer fan before I switched over to Facebook Creator Studio.
Okay.
And I just use Facebook Creator Studio just because of the algorithm, and I know they kind of suppress scheduled posts sometimes from other, like Facebook does, mm-hmm. from other devices. So like they give more preference to what's considered native, like so what you post directly from their platform. Yeah.
Man, they can't just let us live, okay? Don't they? Well, guys, I thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of What's the 411 for Authors. Make sure that you continue to share this video now. If you are interested in utilizing Regina's services, make sure that you also visit the description box because that has her contact information in there, like her website. You can also become a member of her Melanin and Marketing, so you can get that free advice from her as well. If you truly enjoy these shows that I produce, I would love for you to give a financial gift of any amount as well. And I hope that you guys have a great remainder of the night. I hope that this was useful to you because it really just helped me. Because just many of times you do see like quote unquote the low numbers that you get, for your lives, and it can be discouraging. But I think another thing that you have to factor in is, doing those adjustments like Regina, suggested, looking at what time you're doing your lives. And so you really have to play around with different things. But like Regina also was teaching us that data is important and we have to look at those numbers so that we're not banging our head against the wall unnecessarily at times. So like I said, I hope that you all have a great night and we will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.